So I just got one of those silly comments under one of my teaching videos. It goes a little something like this. Ginga Glick said she played around the world for 5 years and didn't know one note. She's self-taught too. So what you're teaching isn't even necessary to cut a hit record. Let's talk about that. That made me think about who you know as my favorite artist, the guy who did it for me, Prince, and Prince's own myth making. So Prince's legend, his myth making, as I like to call it, his own myth making, all roads point to a musical genius. And I'm not at all going to say that he wasn't a musical genius, but how much of this is genius and how much of this is hard work? You know, I tell the story all the time. It's a story that Levi Caesar told to me. He said they're going on stage at Madison Square Garden, and Prince says, Levi looks at Prince, he says, "Good luck," and Prince says, "I don't need luck, I practice." So how much is genius and how much is work? Let's talk about it. So most people would tell you Prince didn't read music, Prince didn't know music theory, and my favorite, Prince played 27 instruments.
1,000.
And that is the number that we hear all the time is 27 instruments. And being I am a Prince fam. I am one of those guys. I've been into Prince since I was between 8 and 10 years old. And I love the guy. Like he was a member of my own family. But I call bullshit on that. You mean to tell me that one of the most photographed musicians of the 20th and the 21st century, there ain't not one picture of him playing an oboe, trumpet, saxophone? So let's talk about the reading claim. Now, was Prince a reader like a Broadway pianist or a Broadway violinist or someone who needs to be able to read music, read those little dots on the paper at a moment's notice? Probably not. And he also didn't need to be. But I find it quite hard to believe that a person that was as intelligent, as curious, as forward thinking like Prince would just say, "Nah, I don't need to know what a quarter note is." And then there's the music theory claim. Listen, everybody knows Prince could direct his band, often play the instruments of the people in his band better than they could, if not on the same level, if not better than they could. So, and be able to communicate different things in a moment's notice. Well, I got news for you. As a musician, as a former music educator, I'm still a music educator. You know, as someone who does the thing and has done the thing on a professional level, I can tell you that few people, no people, just pull things out of the air and say, "Ooh, masterpiece." There's a bit of craft work that goes into that, and that takes knowing some music theory. Not only that, Prince was kind of a walking, living, breathing contradiction. And, I'm going to get deep off into that, but I have tons of bootlegs of rehearsals and things like that. And you can hear him, talking about chords and things like that. He knew some music theory, and he knew music theory, not some. He knew music theory. And again, the same rules apply here. Somebody as forward-thinking and as intelligent as him doesn't just sit around and say, "Yeah, nah, I don't feel like knowing that." You know what I'm saying? It just, I don't believe that. Now, I'm going to read this list because I did I thought about this 27 instrument claim. And again, I say, we got pictures of Prince all over the place. All over the place. Hey, you ain't never seen Prince with a saxophone in his hand. You ain't never seen Prince, playing a flute. Never? Check it out. So, I think it's hogwash, but I have personally, right, just like you, but I've seen this up close and personal. Up close and personal. That's what I meant. Electric guitar, check. Acoustic guitar, check. But they're essentially the same instrument. if we're being technical, bass guitar, drums, congas, bongos, tambourine. Anyone can play that. That doesn't take any level of great expertise. Clavinet, which is a keyboard instrument. Piano, keyboard instrument. Electric piano, keyboard instrument. Synthesizers, keyboard instrument. Organ, keyboard instrument. Synth bass, keyboard instrument. Now, we did do some research and kind of like break this down, right? So that's a lot of sound producing things. But if we were persnickety and nitpicking, that would be 13 instruments. Other percussive instruments. And I use the instruments loosely, very loosely. Cowbell. You and I can do that. Shakers and maracas. Kindergartners can do that. Gyro. I always like to play with that name because I never say it right, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, finger cymbals. Triangle, hand claps, and yes, they sometimes got credited individually. Wood blocks. Now, that list of instruments are all things that you would find in any kindergarten music room around the country. Let's talk about brass instruments, and we're talking about the common brass and woodwinds, right? Brass and woodwinds. Flute. Saxophone, clarinet. You ever see a picture of Prince playing any of those? You ever met a musician that owns an instrument, doesn't really play it? I know I have. Strings, studio overdubs he's been credited for on the first album. Violin and cello. You ever see him play any one of those? And I'm gonna tell you, violin is a tricky instrument to half-ass play. So here's the thing. I don't think that anybody should take pride in, you take pride in whatever you take pride in. But I believe that knowing is better than not knowing. I don't think anybody operated on the same level as Prince Rogers Nelson. But when we hear these myths or these tales of musicians as musicians, we gotta tread lightly because again, there's star making, myth making, legend making that happens, and you gotta keep it real. Like sometimes like he or she might not have done that, but is that my journey or my story? But I'm here to tell you that particularly with the note instrument, the 27 instruments thing, and also the not knowing theory thing, I don't think he played 27 instruments. I think he played everything that you would find in a rock and R&B band. I think he played all those instruments and he played them well. And synthesizers make a lot of different sounds. And I think even doing that is pretty impressive because most people cannot do that on the level that he was able to do it, and that's fine. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I just think when the next time you hear somebody say, something like they didn't know a single note, take that with a grain of salt. And if Kinga, I can never pronounce her name right, but she's an amazing bass player. I would take that with a grain of salt as well. I don't think anybody just like, I'm just gonna be curious and and so good with this instrument, but I'm not gonna know a note. If you didn't know a note, that would mean that you didn't know how to even tune the instrument, because what would you be tuning? You'd have to know that the low string is E, the middle string is A, D, and then G. You would have to know that, right? Right. Now, this is a good place for me to tell you about my app, Bass Note Master. If you don't know the notes on your bass, check that out. It's linked below. I guarantee you that if you use this app as designed, you will never be able to tell people that you don't know the notes on your bass again. Hey, I'm looking forward to seeing your comments in the comment section down below. Like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit that bell for notifications so you never miss a live stream or a video. Remember, it ain't rocket science. It's pocket science. I'm going to catch you in the next one. Peace. 2 fingers.